Shopping is hard, right? But there's a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And she sends just for me pieces. Plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what I love and send back the rest. It's so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Today on CityCast Philly, big day tomorrow. The Philadelphia Eagles parade. It's going to be a party from Broad Street to the Parkway. Festivities kick off at 11 a.m. But the big speeches will start around 2 p.m. on the Rocky Steps. If you need more details, logistics, tips on how to navigate getting in and out of Center City, check out today's edition of our Hey Philly newsletter. There's a link in the show notes. So while we're getting ready for the parade, let's be honest, we need a break. We have to take a breather. We're still vibing off of last weekend's celebrations. So we're re-airing an episode we did in the fall about how dogs have taken over Philly. You see them everywhere these days, right? You know, you've probably seen evidence of them at the bottom of your shoe. Just the other day, Matt from our team, his son stepped in dog poop on the way home from school. Ugh. And we thought, we gotta talk about this again. Today's guest, Shanice Ajiwe, associate editor at Philly Mag, recently wrote an article asking this question. How did Philly dog culture get so out of control? But she says the blame isn't on the pooches and the cute little pups. No, it's you, Philly, the dog owners. It's Thursday, February 13th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Shanice, this is something I've been trying to talk about for a long time. Thank you for writing this article. But I do want to start the conversation and say, in no way am I anti-dog.
Me neither.
Good,
Me
okay.
neither. I, grew up with 2 dogs of my own that are still alive, and I love them to death. Why would I be anti-dog? I'm on the side of the dogs. It's the people that are the problem. Which, funnily enough, I think people are more receptive to being the problem than their dogs being the problem, which is kind of weird.
What kind of dogs are these?
So I have one Australian Silky Terrier, which sounds so pretentious, but his origin story is really not pretentious. We thought he was a Yorkie, and then he just kept getting bigger and weirder looking. So we were like, what is he? Eventually we found out, yeah, that's what he is. And then we have a pit bull.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're
do they mingle well with each other?
They are best friends now. Mm-hmm. It's been a couple of years and now they're like Pinky and the Brain,
So cute.
One small freaky looking little wizardish dog and then just a normal pit bull. Yeah.
So my dad got a really cute Pomeranian.
Oh.
We call Nico.
Oh.
So full of life, so full of joy. We love Nico.
Yeah.
What we don't love is when Nico poops, especially seeing poop on the blocks in our neighborhoods. We're not imagining things, right?
No.
It's a lot of shit.
It's a lot. I mean, while I was writing this, I was walking around maybe twice as much as I usually do. And I noticed that if there wasn't just poop on the sidewalk, somebody would, be walking their dog would poop, they'd bag it up, and then they would leave the bag there. What?
Right, yeah.
Why? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, you're not imagining it. There is a lot of poop just everywhere. I stepped in some. That was why I wrote the story, because I stepped in some and I got so mad that I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs.
Yeah. Try stepping in it, not realizing, and then it gets smeared on your car floors.
Oh, did that happen?
Up my daughter's leg.
Oh my God.
We're walking around and I'm like, what is that smell? Girl, what? She's like, Mom. I said, oh my God, look at your crock.
Oh, see?
It's full of poop.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, 2 things. The irresponsibility of dog owners really does impact, I feel, children, maybe a bit more than it does adults. I was raving mad when I was writing this, but, I'm sure it's even worse for the kids who don't know that they stepped in dog shit. But My second thing is open-toed shoes.
Ooh.
I don't really I'm wearing Birkenstocks right now, but I typically wear socks with them. And when this went online, I saw one comment that was like, as soon as she mentioned Birkenstocks, I wrote this article off. And I was like, I mentioned the Birkenstocks thing just so you would know. I was wearing open-toed shoes when I stepped in dog shit. So I think you would be a little disgusted too. I should have just said sandals. I said it for a reason. Just read the rest of the article.
Right.
But yeah, I really do feel for kids who step in dog shit, or kids who are afraid of dogs, and the irresponsible dog owners out there. They have a 12-foot long leash, and leash laws in Philadelphia say that you can't do that. 6 feet is the limit. No longer than that.
Well, we'll talk about that more later. Okay. But Philly is definitely a dog city,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And since the pandemic, there have been more dogs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, pet adoption exploded during the pandemic, and the majority of people didn't, you would think that a lot of people would, give the animals back to the shelter once they realized that maybe this is more than they bargained for.
Or they had to go back to work.
Exactly. But the vast majority of people kept their dogs. But I think a significant portion of that, however many million people got into pets during the pandemic, I think a significant portion of them didn't really know what they were getting into and still aren't really quite reckoning with how much of a responsibility it is and how complex it is too. You really have to be thinking about dog behavior and, your community and all of these things that people aren't really thinking about. They're just kind of thinking, I like my dog and I'm going to, walk my dog and we're going to be best friends and that's going to be it. You really are taking on a lot.
Dogs are pricey.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're actually a lot like people. They have preferences. They have opinions.
They have healthcare needs.
Yeah. They need healthcare.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than I think, even when we got our first dog, my parents really did not want to get us one. And they didn't want to because I think every parent can agree with this. That responsibility is going to be yours as the parent, ultimately, because your kids are kids. But yeah, no, it really did teach me a lot about responsibility, especially to, and I know people don't like to hear this, but an animal that is 100% beholden to your will. Your animal is captive, essentially. You are in charge 100% of the time. So you have to be making those decisions that are best for your animal that can't make decisions at all.
I'm also thinking, as a renter, when my kids say, Mom, we want a dog. Many landlords charge a pet fee.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any pets right now, but yeah, my landlord also does charge a pet fee. And interestingly enough, he's anti-cat, but pro-dog. So in my apartment,
you get a range in the city. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Philly dog culture. There's definitely a dog culture here in the city. How would you describe it?
I think people really do love their dogs. I'm not arguing that at all. If people didn't love their dogs, we wouldn't have yappy hours and pet bakeries and dog photographers and there's a doggy style everywhere you look.
Right, and that's a dog pet store.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and an adoption agency as well. So I think people in Philadelphia really do love their dogs. I think we're number 13 or something in metropolitans around the country that have a lot of dogs. We're number 13 and Houston is number 1. I mean, I'm not arguing that people do or don't love their dogs. I know they do. But I think maybe Philadelphians and maybe people in pretty much every city haven't quite grappled with the intersection of your responsibility to your dog and your responsibility to your neighbors. I think that's really where the problem is.
Okay. So for me, it's not just the poopy situations that, come up. It's going back to that leash issue.
Mm-hmm.
When owners think it's okay to let your dog get close to me, sniff me, and then it causes the dog and the owner to now come into my personal space.
Yeah.
When I'm just trying to do my morning walk, mind my business, and then there's this weird smirk or laugh
oh, he's friendly.
I'm like, this is not funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something we talked about like on the staff. I, asked everybody like on our editorial staff, and one of my coworkers, Carla, she mentioned, she had previously lived in like a high rise. And, of course, there's an elevator. So people and their dogs would get into the elevator and, like a golden retriever or something would just like paws on her shoulders or like nipping at her ankles or something like that. And yeah, the people would be like, oh my God, he's friendly. He likes you. And she would be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's friendly. I don't care if he likes me. I don't like you and I'm not friendly. So.
And it goes both ways because now I've met dogs and I would introduce myself how I normally would introduce myself to a human. Is it okay?
Yeah.
For me to pet it? And then that's when the dog owner should say, sure, or no, and let me know the dog's limits as well so that I don't, get bitten.
Yeah. It's that I think 70% of people really are, great dog owners, but it's that 30% that I think part of the problem is like exceptionalism, like, oh, it's okay because it's my dog, but you don't know about the other person. And that's kind of like a lot of the comments that I've like seen on the article have been like, this isn't like a dog or a person problem. It's like a manners problem, like post-pandemic, that people have like totally lost their manners, which is another thing that I've written about.
I remember one time there was a dog that was not on a leash, chased me on Ridge Avenue and Jefferson Street. I was so scared.
Oh my God.
And there was like no one else around. This is in like the Shardswood area. And I was panicking and I like don't know what to do if I'm ever again in that situation. I just ran.
Yeah.
But then the dog thinks that maybe I'm playing.
Yeah. But also, it's illegal. You can't, like, there are leash laws in Philadelphia. Not only are they, 6 feet is the limit, you can't have your dog off of a leash. It is literally illegal, but people don't care. That's kind of, going back to that manners thing. People don't care, or they think it's fine because it's their dog. I wrote this basically as a plea to people to just be like, not only should you be thinking about your dog's preferences and how you can be the best owner you can be, you have to think about other people. Like, I don't even know why I have to say this, but like, you should care about other people.
Shanice, when we come back, I want to hear more about how we can change this dog culture if we can. And that's after the break.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Creating really great retail experiences with multiple stores, teams, and workflows is tough. But with Shopify's point-of-sale system, you can do it across thousands of locations without complexity. It's a unified command center, bringing together in-store and online operations so customers can shop how they want, and staff have the tools to close every sale. Check out shopify.com/special offer and create the best retail experiences without complexity.
Shanice, it seems like dogs and their owners show up in places they never were before. You wrote, what vexes me, I love that word vexes, what vexes me most, dogs in settings where they have no conceivable business being. Pharmacies, banks, malls, offices, restaurants, and perhaps worst of all, grocery stores.
Yeah, my biggest problem was the South Street Whole Foods. Why would you bring your dog there? I mean, of course, I grew up with dogs, but I don't have dogs now. So it's definitely like a bit of a different experience. But I would never bring my dogs to the grocery store because they would hate that. I think a lot of people actually kind of related to the South Street Whole Foods employee that I talked to that, people will come into their businesses and they'll have the dog and the dog will cause a ruckus. And then the owner of the dog will be like, oh, well, whatever. And then it's up to the employees to like clean up the mess or, try to separate, like, if two dogs are fighting, it's up to the employee to like, kind of
squash the beef.
Yeah, like handle that emergency. Because owners are like, well, it's my dog, so it's okay. And I just think that's totally unfair. And that was like another thing that I was hearing like a lot, that it's very tricky for business owners to like be in this situation, especially with this thing about service animals, like according to the ADA, you have to let service animals into like most businesses or pretty much all businesses. But it is illegal to ask for like a demonstration or documentation. Like you can ask like, hey, is that a service dog? It's perfectly legal. But you can't be like, well, prove it or like show me papers, which I kind of agree with. That's kind of nosy.
It is getting.
Yeah. But, so it's a really sticky situation for business owners, which is another reason why I think it's up to the pet owners. Why would you put that responsibility onto these people who are just, trying to run their business day to day.
And who may not be trained on how to handle your yappy chihuahua.
Yeah. Or they haven't read the ADA in full.
Right.
Like, it's a sticky situation. That's why you'll see dog treats, under the counter at the coffee shop, because it's kind of like, well, you can't beat them, so join them. Like, just court the attraction, like, of these dog owners. Just let them come in, like, whatever, I think is what a lot of business owners are kind of feeling about this. I talked to, like, a pet behavioral, like, specialist, like, at University of Pennsylvania. And he, told me something that I really hadn't thought about, which is that people are overestimating the social ability of their dogs. I think there's this stereotype that because of the pandemic, all of these dogs have, like, separation anxiety now, but a lot of dogs actually were being deprived of their alone time. Just like people, dogs need alone time too. So, this thought that all of these dogs have separation anxiety and they can't be left alone for like an hour is a huge overestimation. So, and another, reason why I'm sure people are bringing their dogs to the grocery store is the convenience. The South Street Whole Foods is next to Seeger Dog Park, which is like one of the more popular dog parks.
Yeah.
But what the behavioral specialist was telling me was that that's really not fair to the dogs. Like, to be like, okay, I just got off of work. I'm going to take the dog to the dog park, and then I'm going to, go buy some cauliflower at the grocery store, and then we're both going to go home. When you're walking your dog, what you should be doing is focusing on walking your dog. Give your dog that, like, not like 100% attention, but like give it more than like 10%, like essentially, you should be watching out for your dog's like comfort and behavior and making sure it's not eating like chicken bones on the street and making sure that it's not like peeing on your neighbor's stoop. Like, you have to be watching out for that things and not like, talking to like somebody at the liquor store or, checking your phone and stuff like that. Like, put yourself in that position. Like, imagine if like you were at work and you had to go to the bathroom, but you had to ask your boss to go and he's like having conversations and you're like, I have to, it would be totally unfair to you, and it's unfair to the dogs as well.
But is it okay to have dogs at a coffee shop?
Personally, I think get in, get out. I mean, I used to be...
Because they offer pup cups.
Some of them do. Some of them even have, dog treats under like the counter. I actually used to be a barista at the Reanimator in Kensington. And yeah, we had dog treats under the counter. But I kind of thought of it as like an incentive to be like, okay, we're making peace. Here's a peace offering. Here's your coffee. Go away. Like, sitting down and enjoying your cappuccino and your Shiba Inu is screaming in my ear. Are you crazy? Like, go home. Your dog doesn't want to be here. And so I'm kind of okay with the coffee shop thing, but it's things like, why is your dog at the pharmacy? Like, why is your dog at the ATM? Why is your dog, like, at a restaurant? That is illegal too. Well, okay, the FDA says that your dog can dine outside with you, but Pennsylvania laws say your dog has to be on a leash. And then, like, city health codes say your dog can't dine inside with you. Or, like, the only dogs that are allowed indoors, like at somewhere that serves food, are service dogs and police dogs. Notice how I didn't say emotional support dogs. Like, I know that's kind of a hot topic.
Right. I'm thinking, from a dog owner's perspective, what challenges they do face. Like, if you do have to go to one of these public spaces, if you do have to go to one of these retail spaces, there really may not be a safe space for your dog to hang out while you need to go shopping or get some business done. So what should dog owners do?
I really do feel for dog owners in the city. My feelings were not like, put all the dogs on buses and like get them out of Philadelphia. It was not like that. I think, some dogs do like the city. Like, some dogs are totally fine living in the city. But I think it is the responsibility of the owner to prepare your dog for that kind of life. Like, I talked to a woman who owns like a pet training, business. And yeah, she basically told me that skills like sit, paw, stay, like those things are okay, but it's not going to cut it here. Like, you have to teach them things like drop that discarded chicken bone and, don't start freaking out at the CVS. Like, you have to teach them things like impulse control and, release on command and like don't approach that stranger, things like that. But
you got to teach the dog how to be Philly.
Yeah, you have to teach your dog how to be a city dog if you want to have a city dog. But I think people, and, even when my family got our first dog, we were kind of like, we can do this alone. Like, we don't have to take Finn to like behavior classes or anything like that. And we did all right. But, I think it's worth the effort. To teach your dog how to be a city dog, not only for the people around you, but for your dog. You have to be like cognizant of your dog's like anxiety, like management, and teach them how to be able to do that so that you can bring them into the CVS if it's not a big problem. Like, at the Whole Foods, I talked to an employee and she told me, yeah, it's not totally rare that a dog will like freak out or relieve itself in the store. Ugh. And if people were just teaching their dogs not to do that or not bringing their dogs at all, those things wouldn't happen.
So what are the solutions here? Can we change Philly's dog culture?
I think so. Like, in the interest of being like hopeful about it, I do think so. I think half of it is on the dog owners, teach your dog how to be, like live in the city. But I think it also lands on the city a little bit. I think there aren't enough dog parks. I think there aren't enough trash cans. I talked to a lot of dog owners like in, like the past couple of months. And one of their biggest problems was that there's not enough trash cans. And especially in my neighborhood, I live in Queen Village, and there was kind of this whole thing about trash cans along South Street being removed because they're very expensive to maintain. Mm-hmm. And, people would put their like household trash and then there would just be like a tower of like Q-tips and like dog poop and like flies and, like a chair or something. But yeah, I think there should be more dog parks. I think there should be more trash cans. I think, there are dog parks that even have like coalitions where you can get behavioral education so that, your dog isn't freaking out, I think life isn't easy for city dogs because of the city, but I think the blame isn't totally on the city. I think it is also on, it's the responsibility of the owners to, I think the two need to meet in the middle a little bit. And that's just kind of not happening. So that's why we're at where we are.
Dog owners are very, very passionate about their pooches, right? What were some of the reactions you got after this piece came out?
Philadelphia Magazine is a print magazine, but everything that we write also goes online at some point. So, this was for our November issue, and it actually came out a little early. So I got it like towards the end of October. And I got like one email, and then it went out online. Within 2 hours, it had like 150 comments. And I was like, oh, okay, good night. I'm not going to look at this until like tomorrow morning. And I woke up and it was like 300 comments or something like that. And I was like, I'm not going to read any of these. That looks horrible. But one of my coworkers like tweeted about it, and it's kind of, different social media platforms kind of have like different audiences a little bit.
Right.
So on Twitter, it was like maybe 80 to 90% of people actually like agreed with me. And then like, 10 to 20 were like, you you suck and like stuff like that. Like, my dog is an angel. I can't believe you would say that. And I was like, okay, you obviously didn't read the piece because I never said I hate dogs.
Right.
But yeah, on Instagram, it was more like 50-50. Like 50, I think one comment was like, did a cat write this? And I was like, oh, you're so clever. But yeah, I mean, people really are very, very defensive about their dogs. And people think of their dogs as family. Like, there was a Pew like research study that literally showed like about 50% of Americans see their dog or, and you know, whatever pet it is as a member of their family as much as a human member, which I was like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, they do. And I think that's why people are like, why can't I bring my dog into the Whole Foods? Sometimes people kind of do see their pets as their kids in the way that they think their pet should be able to do anything that a human should be able to do. You know what I mean? Which I think is ridiculous. But in any case, yeah, a lot of people were really, really, really mad at me. Somebody actually posted on their Instagram, like, you're rage baiting. Like, why would you publish this at this time? And I was like, I wrote this 3 months ago. So I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, and I would just like to reiterate, I like dogs. I just get very irritable at people.
I mean, that's part of the culture, too. You have to remind folks, like, where you stand. Like, it's almost like you can't say certain things or you can't have these honest conversations.
Yeah, that was the first thing I would say in pretty much every interview. I like dogs. I'm just saying, you know, TK, TK, TK. Mm-hmm. I think we need to get real about dog ownership in this city and maybe every city.
Shanice Ajiwe, Associate Editor at Philly Mag, thank you so much for joining me on CityCast Philly today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. I hope you didn't get hate comments.
We'll figure it out. You can read Shanice's full article in Philly Mag. We'll have a link in the show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know what you think about Philly's dog culture. Share this with a friend or your neighbor with a dog. Also, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Friday News Roundup. Bye.